Yeah, what's up? I'm Ethan, your real-life English fluency coach, and in today's lesson, we are going to look at 5 exercises that can really help you to improve your clarity and fluency when you speak English. Now, the goal of this isn't necessarily to help you to speak like a native. While for some people that can be important, for most of you out there, it's not really the best goal to have. Really, your goal should be to be able to be understood by anyone, anywhere. And this is because about 80% of interactions in English are actually between non-natives and non-natives. So it's more important that people from Taiwan and Germany and Brazil can understand you than just people from a native speaking country like the US or the UK. Plus, when you have an accent, in my opinion, it makes you sound more exotic and interesting when you speak. All right, so whether your goal is to have more of a native-like accent or to just improve your comprehensibility when you speak English, these 5 simple exercises are really going to work wonders for you. So let's jump in. All right, so the very first thing that you need to learn is that everything that produces sound when you speak is actually based on different muscles in your mouth and in your throat and even up in your nose. So basically, you know already that when you want to make your arms stronger or you want to make your legs stronger or any muscle in your body, then you have to go to the gym or you have to do something else to work it out. So in the very same way, you need to start doing some different exercises that are going to help you to work out those muscles of articulation. Now, this is so important because you've already kind of got that muscle memory. You've already trained all of those muscles to produce sounds very naturally without even having to think about it in your native language. But when you're learning a new language like English, it probably has a lot of sounds that don't exist in your native language. And for this reason, you're gonna have a lot of trouble actually being able to produce those sounds if your muscles haven't done the work to learn it beforehand. Now, if you don't focus on improving this, then you're going to have some bad habits that are coming from your native language that are going to interfere with how clearly you can speak in English or any other language that you want to learn. So if you have identified that there's a certain sound, maybe a sound that doesn't exist in your native language, that's really challenging for you, then really the best thing that you can do is just practicing that sound over and over again. For me, for example, when I first started learning Spanish, one of the toughest sounds for me was that double R. That's called the trill oftentimes. So that's the sound that sounds like and now I can make it without any problem. But when I first started, I couldn't even start to pronounce that sound. Now, I already knew basically where my tongue had to go to make this sound, and what happened by actually practicing that over and over again is my muscles started to actually get the strength that they needed to produce that sound. So one day, all of a sudden, I was able to do it a little bit. And by continuing to work on that, it just got stronger and stronger. So as you can see, it's really important that you really become aware of all of your muscles of articulation in your mouth, in your throat, kind of those nasal languages that are behind your nose. And you can even do this just in your native language. Kind of pay attention when you say different sounds. Where does your tongue go? Does it go behind your teeth? Does it go up in the back of your throat and kind of block the air? Do you notice that you're kind of vibrating here in your throat? And by doing these things, having just that awareness, it's going to be immensely helpful when you want to try to start acquiring some of these new sounds in another language. Now, maybe you know that you don't pronounce some sound correctly, but you're not even sure what you have to do with those muscles of articulation to say that correctly. And this is where a lot of videos on YouTube that actually show you kind of the musculature and they show you exactly how to produce that sound are going to be very helpful for you. So a channel I would highly recommend, probably the hands down, the biggest expert in kind of pronunciation training is Rachel's English, and we'll actually link that channel. Something else that can be really helpful is actually learning IPA. Now, IPA is the International Phonetic Alphabet. So in this alphabet, they actually have a symbol for every single sound that exists in the human language, I believe. So by learning this, basically what it's going to help you to do is identify certain mistakes, certain errors that you're making when you're speaking. So this is especially important in English, that's a non-phonetic language, because maybe you see a new word, you're not quite sure how it should be pronounced, and you can actually go look it up in the dictionary, and pretty much any dictionary will include the IPA spelling for that word. So basically what this is going to help to do is make sure you don't make some bad habits of pronouncing a word incorrectly from the start. In our Fluent with Friends course, we actually teach you the International Phonetic Alphabet, and this is a really fun way to learn it because you'll actually be practicing it alongside the TV series Friends. So if you want to learn more about that, then I'll link it down in the description below. And then another thing that can really help you to practice this is called minimal pairs. So minimal pairs are two words that are pretty much exactly the same except for one specific sound that changes. So just to give you an example, the word ship and sheep. Now, the reason that this is so useful is because probably if certain sounds don't exist in your native language, you won't even be able to hear them when someone is, for example, speaking English. So maybe for you, ship and sheep pretty much sound the same, but to me, a native speaker, they sound completely different. So actually practicing with minimal pairs can help you to train your ears to be able to identify these different sounds. And pretty much until you're actually able to identify the sounds, you're not actually going to be able to produce them correctly. And then finally, I highly recommend that you use singing. I personally find this as a great way to exercise those muscles of articulation because when you sing, you're kind of naturally exaggerating different sounds. And so it kind of makes a nice little workout for your mouth and for your other muscles of articulation. So I highly recommend finding some song that has like a certain sound that you're trying to train and listening to that anytime that you're in the shower or you're in your car or any other time that you're alone like that, and actually sing along and really exaggerate those certain sounds that you're trying to train. So now we're going to move on to the second exercise, but really quickly before we do, I want to let you know that if you are new here, every single week we make fun new lessons like this to help you to understand fast-speaking natives, to be understood by anyone, and to connect to the world. Just like Holly, who says that our videos help them to enhance their speaking. So we're going to help you to reach all of your learning goals too. It's really simple. Hit that subscribe button and the bell down below, and you won't miss a single one of our new lessons. All right, so just like when you're singing, you can really exaggerate those certain sounds that you're trying to learn. You can actually exaggerate the entire accent. Now, we recently did a lesson with actor Dev Patel, who said that this was one of his secrets to successfully being able to play characters that were American, Australian, or even Indian, even though he's British. So you might feel a little bit ridiculous doing this at first, and you'll probably want to do it somewhere where no one can hear you, but really that's the point of it. By really exaggerating every single sound and really trying to sound like an American or a Brit, what it's going to help you to do is kind of pick up on those more subtle sounds and stuff and be working on your muscles of articulation to correctly pronounce them. And then once you do this, you can kind of pull it back and speak more naturally. Now the goal here isn't necessarily to sound like a native, although it will definitely help with that if that's your goal. But really what you're trying to do here is really train those muscles of articulation so that you're saying each and every sound correctly. You're saying each one very clearly so that people can easily understand you. So if you're finding this a little bit difficult, something else that you could try is called reverse accent mimicry. So basically what you do in this case is you find an American or Brit or whichever accent that you're focusing on actually speaking your native language. Now, when you try to imitate a native speaking in English, it can be really difficult because you're also trying to focus on the meaning of the different words that they're saying. Now, by focusing on them actually speaking your native language, you don't have to really pay attention to any of that. You just are focusing in specifically on the actual pronunciation that they're making. So you'll actually pick up on some of those errors that they make, some different ways that they pronounce things, and by imitating them in this way, you'll actually be able to then apply that to actually speaking English. All right, so if you are like most learners, your English probably has so many different influences from all the things that you listen to, all the videos that you watch. And so you'll have people that you're watching that maybe have different accents, they're different ages, different genders, and so on. Now, while this diversity is super important to be able to improve your listening, because really you need to be able to understand anyone regardless of their age or gender or where they're from, this is not such a great thing when you're trying to focus in on improving your pronunciation and your speaking. So when you were learning your native language, you pretty much learned everything that you knew from just your mother, your father, and maybe some other family members. Now, I know you're not a baby, but really you can apply the exact same practice to your English learning. And this is actually an exercise that I used to do with all of my students. And it actually has to do with adopting an English-speaking mother or father. So this might sound a bit funny, but hang in there with me. What do I mean by this exactly? So it's really simple. Basically, all you have to do is pick one person who's speaking in English you really love. So just to give you an example, I had a student from Russia who chose Oprah as her English-speaking mother. So she really loved Oprah's podcast, and so she already had a convenient way that when she was in the street or when she was driving to work, she could be listening to her all the time. And then in addition, she would also watch different interviews with her. Maybe she'd watch old episodes of her TV program. And then, basically by listening over and over again just to this one person, she would really be just focusing in on Oprah's way of speaking, on the way that she would articulate different sounds, on her accent. So if you have the time, another thing that I really recommend is actually downloading some audio from your English-speaking mother or father and actually isolating some different words, for example, that you find really difficult to pronounce and listening to those over and over again. So what you're going to do next actually is just like a baby when they're learning, after they've been listening to their mother or their father for a very long time, they start to actually imitate their speaking. So you don't have to actually wait that long, but you can actually take some of these things that you're listening to and start to imitate this person's way of speaking and really try to capture every little way that they pronounce every word, every sentence, the intonation they use, their specific accent again, the rhythm that they use when they speak. All right, so we're going to talk a lot more about that in the next exercise, but really quickly, maybe you would like me or one of the other real life coaches to be your English speaking mother or father. So a really great way that you can do this is by joining our real life native immersion course, where we will teach you to understand English as it's spoken in the real world. And we'll also teach you different aspects of English like connected speech, which can help you to sound more natural when you speak. So you can actually try this absolutely free with our Power Learning Week. So if you want to learn more about that and sign up, it's really simple. Just click up here, or you'll find a link to that down in the description below. All right, so this is actually two very similar exercises. So first off, what is shadowing? Now, if you haven't heard of this, basically all you have to do is take some audio, for example, from your English-speaking mother or father, and you would listen to it and try to say everything that that person is saying at the exact same time that you're hearing it, and trying to say it as closely as possible to the way that they're saying it. Now, mimicry, on the other hand, I'm actually more of a fan of. Now, this is because I think when you do shadowing, it's really difficult to actually focus in on the actual pronunciation, on the exact way that person is saying those things, and I think you might actually end up making a lot of errors, and you might actually be reinforcing making those mistakes. Now, when you do mimicry, what you're going to do is just take some piece of audio, usually something very short, you're going to listen to it, and then you're going to repeat it. Now, this can be really great because maybe you'll come across certain words again that are difficult. Now, you can look those up in a dictionary and find the IPA for it and see what are the sounds that are actually being tricky for you, and then maybe you can even find some video that'll teach you that specific sound. And another really fantastic resource that can help you with this is called Forvo. Now, on Forvo, you can look up pretty much any word and hear a native pronouncing it. And the really great thing is that they have natives from all over the world, so pretty much any accent that you want to hear, you can find someone from that place pronouncing that word. Now, maybe you don't just want to be able to speak more clearly, but you also want to be able to speak faster, right? Well, Andrea made this fantastic video that will help you to do exactly that. So we'll link that up here and down in the description below. All right, are you ready? We are at the final exercise, and this one I left for last because it's just so great in that it can combine with any of the other exercises that we've looked today and really take them to the next level. So basically, all you have to do is record yourself speaking English. Now, this might feel kind of weird at first, and the reason for that is that we hear ourselves differently when we speak than other people hear us, or, for example, that you would hear on a recording. Now, the science behind this basically is that when we speak, we make certain vibrations that go to our brain, and so we're actually hearing more than just with our ears. We're actually hearing it internally. Now, of course, once you get used to this, once you've actually recorded yourself and listened to yourself enough, then you'll be really used to how your voice actually sounds, and it won't bother you at all. So just really put in the effort and get over that awkwardness at first. So there's a couple of different ways that you can use this. One way that can actually be really great to also learn vocabulary about a particular subject is by just talking about some certain topic. So for example, maybe you've been following the US election and you're really interested in talking about that. You could read some news article and just kind of comment about it to yourself and record yourself. And then what you're going to do is you'll actually listen back to that and try to catch your mistakes to yourself. Of course, a teacher can help you with this immensely, but I think you'll be surprised about how many mistakes you can already catch just by yourself. And then you can repeat this exercise basically each time talking about the same topic and ironing out those mistakes so each time you get better. So another way that you can use this is by actually combining it with the last exercise. So by actually recording yourself doing that mimicking or shadowing. So a really great thing about this is that you can actually compare your recording to the original audio. If you want to take it to the next level, then you can download some free audio editing software like Audacity, and you can actually compare the original audio and your audio side by side and look at the height of the different wavelengths. Now, if you do this, it's really going to be incredible for being able to increase your clarity, your fluency when you speak, and if it's your goal, to even eventually sounding more like a native. So really, I highly recommend that you get past that initial awkwardness of listening to yourself and start practicing recording yourself along with some of these other exercises. All right, I hope you've had some fun and that you've learned something that's going to really help you to speak more clearly so anyone, anywhere in the world can understand you when you speak English. Now, I want to actually hear from you. Which of these exercises are you most excited to try? Or if you've already tried some of them, which one did you find most useful? I look forward to reading those down in the comments below. And now it's time to go beyond the classroom and live your English. Ah, yeah.
And today's lesson is really going to help you with those pains you have about learning English. I'm going to give you the best tips and tricks that you can start learning and using so that you can speak English faster, but also understand natives better, even when we speak fast.